up, everybody? Senior editor of Dragzine, Brian Wagner here at Verona Dragway with John Hilderbrand. John, your car caught my eye because of the hot rod look, and I asked, is it all steel? You said yes. You had me at right there. John, tell me about this car.
It's an original 1931 Model A Ford Coupe. It's chopped 4 inches, but the back window's only chopped 2 inches, because otherwise it becomes a mail slot real small. And it's got a Ford motor in it. Actually, it's called a Cleaver, which means it's a Windsor block.
Nice.
With a Cleveland top end on it. So Cleveland heads, manifold, etc. And it's 383. The car just, well, it ran 6 flat at 112, and then I just ran it again, it ran 606. So it'll run, the bestest run is 913 and a quarter mile at about 146. And so I race it here in the Verona Series, and I race it in Summit Series, and I race it in the Heritage Series, so I take it to the March meeting.
Nice.
And I take it to Sacramento for their Heritage races, and then I will be at the California Hot Rod Reunion in October, racing there, which is the last race of the Heritage Series.
It's cool because it's all steel, Ford powered, Ford transmission, and I mean, a Model A like this, that's a pretty short wheelbase car to be going 9 seconds. What's it like trying to wrestle this thing down the track?
Well, it is a wild ride. You're familiar with the old cartoon Mr. Toady? Well, it's kind of a wild ride. It's a 105-inch wheelbase, which is a stock Model A.
That's interesting that it's a stock wheelbase car going that quick. You get to do the Heritage stuff. What do you know, did you build all this car yourself? What's the story on that?
Yeah, I built everything on it except for, I had a friend of mine weld the cage in. It's a full cage car, certified to 850, and I'm certified to drive to 850. The motor, some of the machine work, the boring, I have GRC machine do that work and balancing, but otherwise I build the front part of the frame and put it all together. It has an Alston Chassis Works 4-link in the rear, and there's something else that's kind of unique. You kind of have to show it on camera.
We'll grab some B-roll of that. Tell us about it.
Okay. One of the problems with these cars, especially with the big tires like I have on the back, is either you have to stick the tires way out, or you have to jack the car way up in the air to get the big tires on it. So to solve that, what I did was I took the rear quarters and I crescent moon cut them.
Okay.
Which means it has about 2.5 inches at the top, and then it goes narrow down to the end. And you'll see that when you shoot the B-roll for that.
So it's a little bit different than your typical kind of fender rolling deal where it's more uniform. This is not as uniform as a full fender roll.
Well, what it does is it looks like original Model A, and if you didn't know what an original Model A looked like, you wouldn't know that does happen to it. But it allows me to get the tires in underneath the car. They don't stick out. The car sits down, looks pretty good. And it's got, 4-link rear, 4-link in the front too, with a dropped I-beam axle, drilled and dropped. This motor happens to be a dry sump motor.
Okay.
That's just the way that block came. It's a Ford Motorsport block. So it was a dry sump block. And it uses a 1050 Dominator, which has to be on there sideways because it won't fit front to back.
Nice. I noticed that. I noticed that. I was like, all right, it's got it on there sideways.
Well, people keep telling me, well, you can just cut a notch in the cowl. And
you're like, it's a steel all. No.
I've already cut the front end back a little bit and moved the firewall back because the motor sets back about 4 or 5 inches. So it's a little tight inside. You'll see when you get the B-roll for the inside. But it runs a C4 transmission. Dana Sniff builds that for me. And it's got trans brake, 4 30 gears in the back with a spool. And it'll cook the tires if you're not careful. It tends to wheel stand a bit now.
And I guess the final question to roll things out, I always like when people do a build, Why this car? Why this setup? Of all the things out there you could have built, why a Model A with a big old honking Ford in the front?
Well, I actually traded my little brother who had a 32. I traded him parts for this body. And I had a 33 4-door. Didn't really like it. Had a 56 T-Bird, which I raced for a while with the Y-block in it. In fact, we've put a Y-block in this car before and raced it in what we call the West Coast Y-block Shootout, which will be held next Antique Drags here. We'll have the Y-block Shootout. Now, I won't race this as a Y-block car because I don't have that motor now, but we'll be racing the Shootout.
Well, it's an awesome car. Thank you for taking the time. I'm going to grab some B-roll. Make sure, folks, you check out dragzine.com for more info. Thank you so much for showing us your car.
Great.